I'm delighted to be here. My name is Matthew Jordan Tank. I'm from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, based here in London. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to MetroRail 2012 conference organizers. It's a real privilege. We're going to have a very interesting session, I think. We have presentations from Istanbul, from Rome, and from Warsaw. So thank you for coming, and I'll give a short introduction to who I am and what EBRD does. I don't think many of you are that familiar with my institution. So I have been with EBRD since the end of 2007. I'm an urban transport specialist there. I essentially work within a banking institution that finances infrastructure, both public and private sector clients in Eastern Europe, Central Europe, the Caucasus, Ukraine, Russia, and Central Asia. So quite a big range, also including Turkey as of 2009, and now 4 countries in North Africa. This region is very, very diverse, ranging from megacities like Moscow, with many, many challenges, to wonderful historic cities like Krakow, where they have great traditions of urban rail spanning many, many decades into the past. EBRD has about 20 years worth of municipal finance experience. We started in 1994 in that area with 300 deals signed to date, about 5 billion committed, as you can see. We had a record year in 2011 with 600 million euros in financing. In many respects, the financial turmoil that's been happening in Europe has actually been something of a boon, ironically, for EBRD. Our specific mandate is to help cities, regions, and countries, as well as the private sector, invest and reinvigorate their economies. And as commercial banks have had difficulty investing, actually, in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, EBRD has stepped up its commitments. As I said, we work in 34 different countries, everything in the green shaded areas, as well as the 4 countries in North Africa now with the Arab Spring, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, and Jordan. Just a bit about our financing, and then I'll go into a couple of projects we've financed. We typically do quite small-scale projects, so we don't look usually are not looking to do the mega projects. We do in urban transport where I work. Our average deal size is about 30 to 40 million euros. Our maturities can be quite long-term, of course, and security is linked to specific instruments which we very much promote and need to have to be able to finance the projects. What are some of the highlights? These are urban rail projects that we've done. We've been quite active in Poland, in Warsaw. I'm glad to see Mr. Lek here. In Romania, Bucharest, Arad, Sofia, Bursa in Turkey with the LRT system, Belgrade Trams, Kiev, etc. Now, in Warsaw, we were very happy to participate alongside the European Investment Bank, the 2 banks, in the financing, co-financing of the second line of the metro, which Mr. Legg from Warsaw will discuss. This was primarily for rolling stock necessities for that project. Warsaw, we continued there with the tram. 186 new trams were financed. We've contributed to that financing as well. That's a major investment which will really help. It has quite a few synergies with the metro project and in public transport in general. In Bursa in Turkey, this is a major secondary city in Turkey. It has a very, very well-planned LRT system, very good ridership, expanding the system, and we contributed a 70 million investment out of 220 million, essentially, again with EIB as our partners there. And in fact, a 3rd phase is planned for Bursa. So this is a case of an expanding city, like many cities in Turkey, where the demand for public transport is really growing as the population and economy grows. Basically, EBRD, a quick word, we focus specifically in this sector on a decentralized decision-making process and financing when we can at the very most local level. What we've seen is this push towards decentralization in urban transport, which we think is quite healthy. I mean, on the one side of the spectrum, you have sovereign-backed loans, which can be quite cheap and long-term. That's a good advantage, but they can also become politicized, of course. And then moving from there, municipal loans directly to the cities. But our actual preference is to get down to the level of sort of what we would call utility or corporate loans with the actual public transport operators themselves. And we have 3 very good examples here who we'll present later today. And then finally, at the far end of the spectrum, we do also finance PPPs, private sector financing for urban transport. So what do we need to be able to do these kinds of projects? Essentially, we need to have a very well-defined revenue source, very stable, long-term revenue source. And the way this is done is through what is known as a public service contract. And this is actually mandated through the European Union directives. And basically this defines, I'll have an example of it a bit later, it defines the revenue relationship and the contractual relationship between the city as owner of the company and then the company as service provider. And just as the other presenters this morning talked about obligations and performance standards and KPIs, this is the kind of thing we need to see, and if it's not there, we help them set these up. So this is essentially a schematic of what I'm talking about. The PSC is at the heart of our financing, this kind of classic corporate loan to a public transport operator. Basically a long-term PSC, 10 to 15, up to 18 years for urban rail, where payment per kilometer, a payment level per kilometer is set in exchange for meeting that operational plan and the KPIs. When that's in place, and once that's signed between the operator and the municipality, EBRD makes its loan agreement directly with the operator, and that is backed, of course, centrally by the PSC, but then also a municipal support agreement, which we have a side agreement with the municipality. So we wrap the entire structure around that, and we create credit worthiness through that. Even in public transport companies that are loss-making due to low revenues from fare-paying customers. So that's the basic approach. Why are we interested? Why does EBRD and frankly a lot of other banks more and more, why are they so attracted to urban transport and urban rail specifically? Well, one, and we've heard about this aspect this morning, urban rail has a unique ability really to provide a high quality, robust alternative to car travel, to the alternative of private cars. It acts as a real antidote for congestion in that particular corridor. And again, it's about options, about alternatives. It's both scalable in terms of network and capacity, and it provides other very tangible things like, there may be secondary, but they're very real, property value increases, air quality improvements, carbon reductions, which is important in today's focus on climate change. And in addition, it has real revenue generation. I mean, these projects when they're done correctly, they can achieve cost recovery, as we saw from some of the Asian examples. So we're quite interested in this area. We've actually tripled our financing in urban rail over the last 4 years, and I think that will continue. The demand is very, very strong, and I'm very pleased, as I said, to be here. And I'll close with that. And I'd like to move right away, in the interest of time, to our first speaker. Mr. Omar Yildiz is the general manager of Istanbul Ulaşım. Mr. Yildiz has a long experience in urban rail. He's managed the company for many years. He's educated at Istanbul Technical University, where he studied at the Department of Aerospace and completed an MS in 1988. Mr. Ulaşım has had other previous experience at the İSBAK AS between 2005 and 2007, and we are very happy to have him here. Thank you.